So a little something different for me today. I actually got to go do a bus inspection on a 1970 Model 5 Eagle bus. I thought I'd share it with you because I actually own an Eagle bus, and I thought if you were ever going to go look at one, there might be some things to take into consideration before you buy it. This particular customer that is purchasing this bus lives about 1,300 miles away from where it's located, and he doesn't want to fly out there and then find out that it's not in good condition, at least not in good enough condition for him to buy. So he hired me to go check it out, and kind of a backstory with this thing is that the current owners really don't know how to get it started, and it has a generator and they're not sure if it runs, or they're not really sure how to start it. So I'm going to go there and kind of put the puzzle pieces together on this, and then just get everything operating for this guy so he can drive it home and feel safe while doing so. I finally got the damn thing running. Listen to this. It needs to warm up and get all, circulate that fuel and everything. So, but it's running, man. So my first task, as I said, was to get the bus started. After about 4 hours of chasing down bad grounding issues with the replacement batteries, replaced a couple negative terminals and cleaned off a little bit of rust, and hooking up an additional 200 amps of cranking power from a charger, I was able to create a better contact for the batteries. And then once we pulled the bus outside, we actually found out the real issues. And there was a whole nother battery on the back side, actually on the driver's side of the bus, that was so old they didn't even have 1 volt in it. It was actually creating another issue for draining power while I was trying to start the bus. So I've been looking for the brake release on this bus, and there's usually a couple places it's located. Normally it's located on the dash or on the side panel by the windows over there, or it's even on the floor, usually right here. And I looked all around the floor, but I could never find it. And so I've been trying all these combinations, flipping all these switches, but finally, behind this piece of vinyl on the seat, I found the brake release, and even now you can see we're covered up by the seat. I don't know if you can see that back there, but once I air the seat up, you'll be able to see it. So I found it. We're gonna get this thing fired back up. We're gonna get pulled outside and get a sunlight picture of this thing. Hopefully I don't need any jumps from the battery booster. So just another quirky thing you gotta look out for. I've spent about 20 minutes looking for a step release to bring the step up. And some of them were operated by a toggle switch most of the time, and I thought with this guy and his creativity, maybe he hooked up some sort of automatic release whenever you put it into gear or release the brakes. Finally, I crawled down underneath to see if there was still an air line or an electrical line, and he just fabricated a sliding tray with bungee cords on it. Pretty simple. All right, so been battling with the generator. Not really battling, just trying to figure out where the generator battery was, how it ran. Come to find out, this inverter battery was the battery they used to start the generator. She running. Another win. But now I got the generator. It's been running for about 5 minutes, and it sounds like it's about to die, which, if that's the case, turn this off for now. Because of where the bus is located, what I found was that this controlled this is the generator battery, and it's also the inverter battery, and the inverter is working. I don't know what the inverter's not hooked up, other than the DC lines are actually going to the battery. We have a main power disconnect, we have a transfer switch, and then we have another panel, a lot of panels. So there's 3 panels over here, and then there's an additional panel over on the other side for the main power in, and it's divided to a 20 and 30 amp breaker switch. That's how these projects are. People just like this. This is I don't know if it's wired into anything or not, but that's just kind of the stuff that you have some people get to where they're at 90% done on their project. They call it good. So I love these cafe hinges. They are perfect for these buses. They actually hold the doors upright like this, and you're not really ever going to take your head off. There you go. So it's got a frame and then an L bracket, and it connects to where your strut is going to be, and then there's a guide arm. So it's really a pretty simple design, and then you have another square bar that comes over here and does the same thing. I don't know what the exact measurements are, but that's a pretty simple design if you ever want to do it. What are the things you need to look out for whenever you own an Eagle bus? Let's start on the outside. So originally it was 1970, which I think were either I think they were 05 models. But he took off the cap, redid all the work, and put a Model 15 cap on it. Now what a Model 15 is it's actually a 102-inch wide body. So you're wider and you're taller than the stock one. So that's what a factory roof raise would look like. It's about an 8-inch addition on the front there. So it's great for headroom inside and insulating. This bus sounds really good going down the road. And the suspension. So let's look at the suspension. Typically you want 12 to 14 inches of clearance right here. And then again, you can see how much fender well clearance you got there over your tires. And what you need to know about the torsioelastic suspension is that you want to look at where the suspension is sitting and how much adjustment you have left. This one is at a really good ride height, and it's standing really strong. But lots of times when you don't have that amount of clearance, now the shocks are leaking, so obviously the shocks need to be replaced. And under here, not a lot of rust or peeling on the metal. For your adjustment side of things, there's a bolt, a giant bolt on an arm. This right here is where you want to look. So this is the adjustment bolt, and there's about 3 to 4 inches of adjustment left in this, and that arm swings out to the end of the bolt, and once you come to the end of that bolt, you have no more adjustment left. But some areas you want to look out for are right here. And an Eagle, this is typically super rusted out. All right, so continuing around the outside of the bus, I've needed to get the rear and show you the rear area. But another thing to look at here on the rear is that this is where Eagles tend to really rust up bad. And these gusset, most of the times these get cut out. People put gusset plates in because once these rust, this actually pulls, the frame pulls away from this side. But again, this suspension is in really good shape. There's not a lot of rust on that spring. You can't see it great, but again here, this one's not in bad shape. Look at the adjustment and how much space they have left on the adjustment. So this is a good example of the suspension being at its limits and not having any adjustment left. If the bus was to sag anymore and it needed to be raised, you would have to source a new spring or put airbags on it. Still a very expensive project. All right, so now that we've looked at the adjustment, the other thing too to look at is that your caps were fiberglass. And typically the fiberglass caps, they call them rear and front caps, and this one, both of them have been replaced. But on this particular model, rather than riveting it on, which they did rivet on, but then they came back with a body filler and used that to smooth out all of the rivet seams on the bus. So this is where that's not a great idea. Over time, with the heat and the vibration, the Bondo's not going to hold up, and this is what can happen. So on some of your other Eagle models that haven't been converted to this degree, lots of times you'll have your rivets here, lots of times you'll have your rivets like this, and on the body what you'll see typically around these areas here on this trim, if you have a lot of bubbling in the paint, that's usually rust in the frame. There's not a lot of that going on underneath the paint. There's just a lot of the paint that's coming off, and that's just, one, it's really hard to paint aluminum. But man, look at these taillights. They're almost clear. in comparison to a lot of what other people have out there. So a little bit of body work. I mean, look at these. They're like in mint condition. You just don't see that. But really in good shape, other than the, you know, the dated interior, which that's all personal preference. And then of course, just getting the wire cleaned up on this bus is going to be actually a pretty solid rig. The one other drawback I would say is that these older models do not have power steering. Now when you're rolling, that's pretty easy to deal with. They churn, everything is great. But when you're at a dead stop and you're trying to back up and pull forward to do maybe a U-turn or just to get into a spot, it's pretty difficult. This bus is really, there's not much left to show other than just kind of going over things with the new owner. And he's pretty excited to get the bus. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe.